Hi, I'm Rob Pritchard and I'm the sports editor at Manx Radio. 2025 is a landmark year for an Ireland organisation which offers people with disabilities the chance to grow, succeed and make friends through the medium of sport. This calendar year, Special Olympics Isle of Man is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Since 1985, it's helped athletes with disabilities gain valuable life skills, as well as offering the chance to compete at major events across the world. I recently spoke with Special Olympics Isle of Man's acting sport director, Pete Corkill. He explains what it means to see the organisation reach this milestone and explains why it's not just been able to benefit athletes, but the wider community as well. So Pete, thanks for joining us. Now, 2025, Special Olympics Isle of Man, we've heard a lot about them over recent years, and 2025 is a very special milestone for Special Olympics Isle of Man. 2025, it celebrates its 40th anniversary. So to start off with, quite generally, 4 decades of Special Olympics Isle of Man. What does it mean to you all to reach what is a pretty significant landmark?
I think it means a great deal, not just to the coaches, but to the coaches that have been involved for the duration of the charity, but to the athletes as well. 40 years is such a significant period of time for an island of our size to have had our own team competing in international events in disability sport. I believe when the charity was first set up, we competed under the umbrella of North West England. But in 1995, the representatives managed to apply for us to be able to compete under our own banner, which is a privilege that the Isle of Man doesn't get in the Summer Olympic Games or in the Winter Olympic Games. But when it comes to Special Olympics, we get to compete as the Isle of Man in our own right. And I think people take a great deal of pride in that. But that 40 years isn't just us competing in international events. It's 40 years of community. It's 40 years of belonging, and it's 40 years of opportunities for people with learning disabilities to take part in sport, to train, to maintain fitness and health, but also to make and maintain real lasting friendships and security on the Isle of Man, and to have a community of their own, a community which they value greatly, and friendships which have really stood the test of time. We have 2 athletes, Lawrence and Julie, who've actually been involved in the Special Olympics Isle of Man since its inception. So they have been part of it for the entire 40 years. And, what an achievement from their point of view. They've been both athletes, friends, competitors, and they now act as sort of mentors and coaches to some of the younger athletes as well.
And obviously 40 years, a long time as well. And as you mentioned, a couple of people, actually a selection of people have been involved right from the very start, seen that whole journey. In your opinion, what are the biggest things that have changed over those 40 years from date of inception through to now, whether it's in whatever capacity?
Well, I sort of joked the other day to some of the other coaches, and in something I'd written about our 40th year anniversary, that having only been involved in Special Olympics Isle of Man for the last 5 years, I'm definitely an amateur historian when it comes to everything we've achieved in that time. I know that when we first set up, as I said, we were competing under the umbrella North West England, and I think that's certainly one of the most seismic changes, is us gaining that independence to compete under the Isle of Man flag and under our own banner. I think since that time that the understanding and appreciation of disabilities and the integration of people with disabilities within society has come on a huge amount. That being said, there's still a long way to go, but I think the visibility of people with disabilities, the interest that the local press have taken, we've spoke to you each time we've gone away, and there's been a real interest from not just the press but the community as well. The island, the Isle of Man community does take a great interest in Special Olympics Isle of Man, and has very heavily supported us throughout that time as well. We wouldn't be able to do the things we do. Our athletes wouldn't be able to travel the world and compete in the events and be their personal best if it wasn't for the generosity of the Manx public. And that's only really been possible because I think the progress and the steps that have been taken in how we look after and how we support people with disabilities in the community.
And just to pick up on one of the words you mentioned a few times there, community. I mean, when these events come around, of course athletes want to win. That's a given, but the community aspect of it that has built over 40 years now, what does that mean to have that community for whether it's athletes, coaches, parents and guardians to have this here on the island?
I think it can't really be overstated just what immeasurable difference that makes to our athletes' lives and to their families as well. With the island being the size it is, everyone's within a relatively close proximity to one another, which again is a massive safeguard and allows people to maintain contact with friends. Whereas I worked in Nottingham for 13 years, and a lot of the young people with disabilities that I worked with there, when they left our service, were suddenly 20 miles away from their friend. And they weren't able to travel to places independently. So they would lose touch with those people they'd been friends with a long time. What Special Olympics provides is an opportunity to maintain friendships through sport. So people have that shared common understanding, that shared enjoyment where they meet up for training, and they do that over a long period of time. But it also provides families with a community as well. Parents and siblings of people with learning disabilities have got to meet other parents and siblings of people with learning disabilities, which has led to them having a support network as well, which is just as invaluable as the athletes having people to meet up with and support each other too. But, I've also got to recognise that it's provided myself and the other coaches with a community too. The athletes are very much our friends, and they've become our family throughout the last 40 years. I see a lot of the athletes from Special Olympics more than I see some of my own extended family, and I think the other coaches would say the same. I think the level of commitment from the coaches and the volunteers within Special Olympics is been really, really significant. We've got coaches that have been involved for a lot longer than I have, that commit a lot of voluntary hours each year, but they all do it because they love it. And one of the main reasons they love it is, as you said, is that community factor that comes in when we're talking about the Special Olympics and the society that's been almost instilled in everybody that's involved with it.
And again, just to pick up on something you said, a phrase again, like support networks as well, is that does it feel, as we've seen in other sports as well and other organisations, whether it's here on the Isle of Man or elsewhere, that something like Special Olympics Isle of Man is not just a platform for people to take part in sport, but it's also a conduit, like you said, with support networks to help people in their daily lives however they want it?
Yes, certainly. Because I think if you or I, as two neurotypical people, if we're going through a difficult time, we would often turn to, before our family, we would turn to our friends, wouldn't we? And it's exactly the same sometimes for people with learning disabilities. They need access to their friends outside of their work setting or their day-to-day day centre setting. Special Olympics, also the activities that MenCap provide as well, provide a social outlet for people with learning disabilities to meet, to socialise, to access that informal support that is just so important to everybody for our own health and well-being.
And when it comes to the, on the sports side of things, and maybe the slightly competitive side, if you like, as well, obviously being based on the Isle of Man, so much is centred around here, but the opportunities that Special Olympics Isle of Man has had over the years now to take part in events all over the world. I mean, one that springs to mind a couple of years ago was the World Summer Games in Berlin, a huge event when it comes to the likes of Special Olympics around the world. What have been the standout, I suppose, not just events, but experiences you've all taken part in?
From a coach's point of view, from a personal point of view, I haven't been lucky enough to go to our World Games just yet, but everybody that has described it as sort of life-changing. They are colossal events, like you say. There are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of athletes that go. I have been lucky enough to support my team to go away to numerous events. I think from a coach's perspective, we went to a games just as we were coming out of the COVID era in Malta. It was an invitational games, and there was 1,000 athletes with learning disabilities and their coaching teams within a hotel in Malta, and there was several sports on offer. The football team were played absolutely fantastic and came away with a bronze medal, winning the bronze medal playoff game. That was certainly a highlight. We also got invited to a Champions League event in Belgium last year, which was, the opportunities there for the players to sort of test their game against some of the European heavyweights such as Juventus and Arsenal. You can't really put a price on that, can you? It's invaluable, and it's something that most neurotypical people who are massive football fans, massive sports fans, I could never even dream against lining up against Juventus. But a big proportion of my footballers in the Special Olympics have done. And I think for the other sports as well, there are opportunities throughout the year that the coaches work tirelessly to sort of find those opportunities and look at different events that are across the UK and across Europe. And a significant amount of man hours goes into that. But I think when we see the enjoyment and when we see the achievement on the faces of our athletes when they go away and they compete, and we recognise what they've been able to do, it's worth every second.
Is there also maybe an argument that, as well as showcasing what the athletes are capable of, when you go to these big international events, it also showcases what you as coaches and volunteers do to create what Special Olympics Isle of Man is? Do they look at the system that you've got and think, actually, they're doing some really good work here?
I don't know whether anybody looks at us and thinks we could mirror what the Isle of Man are doing. I'm not sure. I mean, I certainly go away, and when we've gone away with other coaches, I'm humbled by the level of commitment that the rest of the coaching team have, and so many of them have been involved for so long. I think we've had an influx of newer coaches come in recently, but prior to that, I think I was certainly the newest and the youngest person to be involved, and that's because we've got coaches that have just been so committed over such a long period of time. They're there coaching, volunteering, week in, week out, and we would not be able to do what we do without the coaching team that we've currently got.
Just two more questions looking forward, really. Of course, celebrating the 40th anniversary throughout 2025. We've got a few months of the calendar year left. In the short term, in the next couple of months, have Special Olympics Isle of Man got anything in particular planned?
I believe Barry, our swimming coach, he has managed to secure an entry to the Northwest Swimming Gala in the next couple of months. I can't quite remember the date, you'll have to forgive us. And I know in the next couple of years, the next World Games, which we've sort of already got our eye on, is going to be in Santiago in Chile. So we're obviously going to have a big push from the athletes, the coaches, and the families as well, when it comes to fundraising, to make sure that we get there. But I've got no doubt that the Manx public, with their generosity, will ensure that we are able to get there. But it should also be said, I haven't actually mentioned the support of the families just yet, and I can't stress enough just how grateful everybody is for the support of all the family members that support our athletes to get to and from training, that support our athletes to come to and from fundraisers. They are very much part of the family and very much part of the charity as well, which we would not be able to do without them.
And finally, just looking forward in the long term, of course, now celebrating 40 years, no doubt those involved will be hoping to celebrate the next 40 years in the years to come as well. So in the long term, where do you all hope Special Olympics Isle of Man will be heading in the next few years?
Oh, it's a great question, actually. I would love to see the Isle of Man continue to compete on the international stage like we have been doing. We've obviously got half an eye on the next World Games in Chile. It would be brilliant to be able to take a large contingent of athletes to that event and coming home with medals. But away from the medals and away from the achievement, it's making sure that Special Olympics is secure, that we offer a wide variety of sporting activities here, because it's not about winning the medals and the winning of the medals, it's about the process of getting there. And there's many athletes that come to training sessions that might not be going to the next games or the one after, but what they're getting and what the benefits that they're getting from regular attendance and training is above and beyond any medals that they might win.
If anyone is listening out there and is thinking maybe their child could maybe enjoy what Special Olympics Isle of Man has to offer, give it a go, see how they like it, whether it's one of their children or a friend or something like that. How can people get in touch and find out more?
So I really encourage anybody with who wants to get involved, either as being an athlete or a coach or a volunteer. We are always looking for new coaches and volunteers to get involved. The more people that we have, the more sports that we can offer, the more support that we can give people. And particularly for young people with learning disabilities or older people with learning disabilities that haven't played a sport before, that are wanting to get involved. We've got a Facebook page that people can get in touch from. We've also got a new website which was launched this year. That people can look at and see what events we've got going on, and they can get in touch. And I always say with my football groups as well, it doesn't matter if somebody comes and joins in for 30 seconds or stays for the full hour and a half. If somebody only manages 30 seconds or 1 minute, my aim is next week, hopefully they'll stay for 5 minutes. The important thing is about them feeling comfortable in the arena of playing that sport. And sometimes for people that haven't been in a group setting like that before, it might be something that causes quite significant anxiety. And that's why there's never any pressure to stay for the full hour and a half. If somebody comes for 5 minutes and then stays for 6, that's a massive success story for me.
Thank you for having the stamina to make it to the end of the Manx Radio Sportscast. You're clearly someone who has their eye on the ball at all times. Want to hear more about the latest sporting news across the Isle of Man and much more? Then might I recommend you take the plunge and subscribe to this series or a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so that, in a flash, all of our finest moments take a winner's place on your smartphone. Thank you.